Hello and welcome back to Talkin Pitch Side. I'm your host PJ with my co-host Tony, as always, here fresh off week 2 of the MLS. Tony, how was your first weekend really actually being able to watch some games? Were you able to enjoy it a little bit?
It was good, and it was, I'll admit, a little bit more distracted than I would have loved. It is weird, having this and being able to sit back, but of course, very busy weekend for me. Got a new dog, so a lot of figuring that stuff out. Had some friends over, those kind of things. But I made sure to keep on the 360 show while everybody was hanging out. At my house, I host my rules, so the TV was on. I got past the 4:30 games, and then after that, it was a little bit like, okay, we'll have to catch up on the highlights of these later. But no, it is like my comfort food, just seeing that, just radiating in any room or falling asleep to the late games.
Hearing
It
that
just
Apple TV
We're
theme.
home.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
waking up to that at 3 in the morning, blaring, saying this match has ended. Like
I
that's
can
my
hear
comfort. Yeah.
I can hear Bradley Wright Phillips, my sleep paralysis demon, like speaking to me in the middle of the night.
He has no idea
Uh
what he's done there. Yeah, right.
yeah. But yeah, I mean it was a good slate. I think these early weeks in the MLS are always so funny because we talked about it last week. You get the overreactions. You never the sky is falling for some teams. The You couldn't be higher like Red Bulls right now, and you're riding on that wave, and you just got to enjoy the ups and downs because this is gonna be a long season with the World Cup mixed in between, and we're here and we're ready for it. But let's jump into it here. Well, I guess one thing I want to know before we jump into it: Weston McKennie, quick U.S. men's national team news, signed a new contract to Juventus. The man finally gets rewarded for for all of his hard work. He's played about 15 different positions for Juventus during his time and the different formations that the coaches have had under he's been under, and this year has been easily his best year at Juventus. His scoring output, his assist output, his ability to change games constantly, whether it's Champions League or league play for Juventus, has been terrific. So well deserved. Probably putting the MLS rumors to bed with that extension. So it'll be interesting to see who are the U.S. men's national team guys that are coming over after the World Cup.
Yeah, and I like this for him. I hope that maybe a little bit of this Juventus streak can break from this of just here's rumors that he's not in the plans anymore. I hope that a lot of that talk just goes away. Certainly he's done everything in his power to just totally eliminate that because he's hit every curveball that's been thrown at him. So it's good to see that he's getting rewarded for that. But I will say with all of this that maybe that's Juventus just keeping him under contract so they can sell. Like just with
Yeah,
how
it's a
turbulent
decent
things can
extension
be.
though. It is
Yeah,
it was I think it was 4 years. So I mean, yes, I mean a club's gonna if they were smart, they're gonna get this done. So they're not just letting him walk. Like that's the smart thing to do. But it does feel like more than just we're selling you this summer type of move.
yeah. And this is probably not where we wanted this conversation to go, but a 4-year deal for them helps buy his yearly salary down, so he's less of a hit. And you've already, pretty much taken on most of his transfer fees. So I just think that this is okay. Yes, it's a long term option. Yeah, I do believe that at least right now they plan on utilizing him. But I think at this point it's just convenient to have a longer contract for both parties. So that's where they're going to land. But anyways, all that to say, obviously I like McKinney playing on one of the top teams, one of the top leagues. It's great for the national team. Honestly, the versatility is great for the national team because, it goes without saying we can play him in many different spots in the World Cup and know that we're going to be taken care of and that we've got somebody that can play those spots at an incredibly high level. So it's just great to see him getting rewarded for that. Obviously, hope that good streak continues into March camp and beyond into the World Cup. So.
Yeah, totally. He will undoubtedly be a very important piece of our World Cup run. So stay healthy. Let's get to March camp here soon. Okay, Tony, let's get into some games here. We have a full slate to cover. Really quick note as well about the slate. Our group chat was talking about a little bit. I love that they're spreading these games out right now.
Yeah.
I love there's a couple games 2:30, a couple games at 4:30, 7:30, late at night. and we've got 4 games on Sunday. Like that is a great spread that I hope they continue. I don't really know off the top of my head what it looks like going forward. I know as other sports become more prominent again, it changes and it will be changing. But for right now, I think it's great for them to cover the whole day with more than one game because
Yes.
there's just stinkers like that they just happen, and you want to have options if there are. There is a 2:30 that's not a great game. Okay, oh, let's go to the other 2:30 game. This one's close, so I think it's great for the league. Smart. You got to give them credit. We critique them for all the things
Yeah.
that they do. You got to give them credit on this one with the scheduling. So I appreciate that. But let's get into that first 2:30, Tony. Chicago Fire at home versus Montreal. This one, it went as we expected from a scoreline perspective.
Yeah.
Technically, we
Yeah.
expected Chicago to score goals. We expected them to win. Not in this fashion where they go up 1-0 and then they get a red card in that second half, and you're thinking, "Oh, is this the Montreal opportunity?" Tony, I've never seen a team just get a red card and dominate the way that Chicago did
Yeah.
after even getting a red card to pour it on, get 2 goals late, and win this one 3-0. And good home win for Chicago. They needed that. And to get off well at home this season, I think was important for them. And for Montreal, it's just more of the same. And I feel like we're going to have the same conversation week in, week out where this has got to be the spoon favorite going forward.
Yeah, for sure. One quick note, I'll back on the schedule thing real quick that I don't know think we've brought up, but last week they announced that like a viewership was way up, like
Way
really
up.
high up,
Way up.
and I think that a lot of that has to do with the balanced schedule on top of not being behind the MLS
Paywall.
subscription.
Yeah.
So yeah, backing up what you're saying, that like I think we're gonna start feeling that more eyeballs. That's a fun thing. More people get involved. More jokes on Twitter. More memes on the TikTok. All this stuff, right? So I'm excited for that. But then we juxtapose that with watching this game in its own window, and how screwed up is Montreal? They play better when they are 11v11 than when they are up a man. That's how messed up they are right now. No, it's a good thing for Chicago. This was a needed result. I mean, obviously not surprising, but we talked about Philly last year and like what made them special. And honestly, part of that is just taking care of these bad teams
Yeah.
like handily, building up your GD on this stuff, and feeling comfortable. And this is a very comfortable game for Chicago. I mean, outside of even the red card thing, like they played better. 3 xG to .1 xG with basically a second half with down a man. Like they took care of business, did not matter the circumstances. They made it happen. So I think that's all good things for Chicago. Robin Lod on the score sheet.
Late sub, too. Came
Late
in and
sub,
scored like
yep.
immediately. It was great.
Feeling good. So that has to feel good for Chicago too. I think there's a lot to be excited about for them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, let's not let overreaction Monday get the best of the Fire. This is Montreal after all. So
No, enjoy your home win. That's what I
yeah,
say. Enjoy your home win. Yeah, so take care of business. Expected, like we said, result that was expected. Maybe not the way we thought it was going to go, but nonetheless, Chicago take care of business. Moving on into that 4:30 window, I believe. Was this game also the New York game? Was that
I think this
4:30?
is an early. I think this is 2:30.
Okay, 2:30. Red Bulls at home versus New England. Michael Bradley era is still flying high, Tony, and so is Julian Hall because the kids are playing, man. It's entertaining to watch. It's fun to watch. Not as dominant as a performance as you saw in that week one from a scoring perspective, but I really didn't know how Red Bulls were going to play coming into this year. Like I didn't know how Michael Bradley was going to be on the front foot, on the back foot, because him as a player, I mean, as a midfielder, he got up as a holding midfielder. Like he wanted to push the ball forward. That was his brand, and that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, there wasn't a ton of opportunities for either team in this game. It was a pretty well played defensive game, but even eye test and statistically, Red Bulls controlled the ball like majority of the game, and they had some chances they didn't even score on. But Julian Hall is able to get that scrappy goal again. It all their goals haven't been the prettiest goals in the world so far this year. It's kind of been a back post tap in, finish it off, or I mean, even Forsberg creating the goal and passing it across. So it's been entertaining. You love to see Julian Hall making these steps forward early on in the season to start building that confidence. And for a New York squad that I know I didn't have a ton of expectations for with new coach, and when you're playing 3 to 4 17-year-olds in your lineup, how can you have very high expectations? But despite that, they're getting results. And I know New England's not going to be the best squad this year, but like we just said with Chicago, these are the games at home you've got to take care of business. No matter how you get it done, you got to win that game, and that's exactly what New York did. And they put up a good defensive performance as well.
Yeah, and I mean you're playing Julian Hall right now over Chupamoting,
Yeah.
and he's delivering. The kids are delivering, and I think one of the advantages that's kind of unique with this setup right now is that Michael Bradley coached half a season with the Red Bulls 2 team and these kids, and then comes up to the pro team and says, I know who can deliver for me. I've worked with this
Mm-hmm.
guy for already 15, 20 games. Like, I know what he's got. There's like an added familiarity with how you can utilize your deeper academy and second teams to really help here. And I think that that's what's going to be, right now, the juice for Red Bull starting out as they kind of learn what the Michael Bradley system is, especially as a MLS team, not an MLS Next Pro team. So far so good. I think they've been really exciting, and I think that's been a much needed change for Red Bulls. That's been a lot of fun. I think that honestly, what we'll see is either, I mean, the plan, they're not going to bench Chupamoting forever. I think he's going to eventually come
Yeah.
out. I mean,
He'll
he's a
play.
DP, you're paying him. But also, I think every time you play the kids, and they've been fantastic, don't get me wrong. I think these kids are people we'll be talking about potentially even next World Cup window for the U.S. men's national team. But I think that, when we talk about the inexperience, like there may be things that pop up, and it feels like
Mm-hmm.
you're spinning the roulette wheel every time you play. I'm not saying it's the wrong call, but I am saying is that it can bite you if it's done incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
It's been great so far, but it feels a little bit like playing with fire to me. It's been super exciting. It's the best narrative to open up the season, honestly. But I think that they all play a very open way. New England wasn't going to take advantage of that. That's not really their style. But come start playing some other opponents, I think that this could get interesting. They may take a couple blows, especially defensively. They're not the best. How do they get back up from that? How do they respond from that?
Yeah.
How does that maturity show in the younger guys? Those are the kind of things that I think is going to get really interesting watching this team. So I'm slightly investing in Red Bulls. I wouldn't say that I'm, putting my whole retirement fund into Red Bull stock, but I am interested. They look stronger than what we thought they would be. Especially, I think that attack is just covering up so much of maybe what we would think is defensive inefficiencies. So it's exciting. And then for New England, like I actually, maybe I'm selling a little bit of New England stock, but I think I'm holding on more than like a lot of people would think. I agree, they're
You can
not.
take mine.
Okay, yeah, I'll hold on to it, and then I'll flash around the dividends when they come in ninth and make the playoffs or something because you just didn't expect that. But I don't think they're as bad a team as we make them out to be. Carlos Heel just immediately keeps a floor higher than a lot of other teams that, I mean, we're talking about, like, just in the lower tier of the Eastern Conference. And then I just, between Campana, who didn't feature in this game, Dor Turgeman did feature in this game, but I think he's been kind of put in positions that he was not in at the end of the season and really hasn't felt like his strong suit because they've been riding the Campana hot hand. Um, there's some juggling here, and obviously I think that with this coach, it's a longer project in New England, but I think that the floor is higher than what people think. So I think only letting Red Bull score one goal on you is sort of an accomplishment in itself. Like I said, I thought some of the new Nashville goals against them were a little lucky too. So I think that they're a bit better than what people are giving them credit for. Don't sleep on them if they're coming to town as your game. Like they could still sting you. But I mean, they're no they're not going to be hosting a. I'm saying this week too. I love this. They're not going to be hosting a playoff series. Like they're not going to be like in the top half of the
Oh, you
playoff
can
teams.
say
But
that.
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's not a
Maybe
bold. That's not a bold statement.
maybe not. But then like someone's going to clip this and just rip me to shreds in a few
Yeah,
months. But
I think I'd have more grace with them if this was a team that had a well established coach and didn't have 4 17-year-olds playing.
yeah,
And I know they won last week, Red Bulls, and I know they're riding high right now, but it's still a team that I expect guys with like veterans like Heel and those guys to be able to maybe compete a little bit more offensively against this squad, and I didn't really see
yeah,
that. And it's not like Michael Bradley's an established guy, and that's what you're just comparing apples for apples right now with these two coaches who are really in the same stage in their coaching career. Like both guys were youth guys,
yeah,
now coming up and coaching first full time like MLS gig, and it will be interesting because I think they're going to be compared a lot. Probably, I would imagine over the next couple of years if they stay in their roles of like where their teams are at. So it will be interesting. I think for Red Bulls, you just got to ride this high a little bit. Like you said, I think, I mean, it's going to correct itself a little bit. You're not going to see
yeah.
Julian Hall scoring 25 goals this season. So there will be some slowdown eventually. And I don't know. I compare it to teams that I have watched, and I look at this Red Bulls team, and Tony, it reminds me a lot of the first year FC Cincinnati was good. Like that first year after all the spoons, where it was like you had Lucho and Vasquez was now here and really establishing himself. And I can see the makings of like, because that team before this Cincinnati squad was like what everyone feels like is a very defensive team. Before
Yeah.
that, they were actually a very attacking and open team. Like the score lines of that first year they made the playoffs were, it felt like 3-2 every single game. Like
Yes.
it was, we're either going down 3-2 or we're going to win this game 3-2. And that's the style Red Bulls is playing with, where there's, I know this game was only 1-0, but it is like we're going, we're going. But you're going to see a team like Miami coming to town eventually, and when you're like we're going, the openings you're going to allow
Right.
in that back line, especially
Those are
with
gonna get
17-year-olds
punished.
playing,
Yeah.
like a guy like Messi is going to tear you apart. So, and that's what happened to that Cincinnati squad. It was veteran teams usually took more advantage of us and were able to score against us and put up those numbers. And I think that's what they'll feel eventually. And what I'm interested to watch is when Red Bulls go against the top tier teams, how does Michael Bradley adjust? How does he change how they play? So we'll see that eventually. I don't know who they have next week. We'll cover that later in the week, but it will be interesting to see how they continue to adjust and evolve because I mean so far like you said in my opinion it's the best story going right now. I think the other teams that are at top of the standings we expect to be there, and this is well except for one other, but the like this to me is like this team had no expectations with a new coach and with all these young guys playing, and they're now top of the Eastern Conference. If the Eastern Conference is not playing well so far this year, so
Yeah.
they can claim that in week 2. So I'm happy for them, and I think they'll continue to improve. But let's move on from the Red Bulls glaze here a little bit. We'll move on to Rapids at home versus Portland. Colorado gets their first win. Matt Wells gets his first win as the head coach in the MLS, so congrats to him. This was a dominant game. In my opinion, just from the eye test, I don't know if you got to watch this game at all. The the way they attacked in that first half and at the end of the game, because I think this game could have ended 3 or 4-0 after that red card. It was impressive, and this is Matt Wells is an Ange Postacoglu disciple,
Mm,
Tony. So
mm,
this is the way they're going to play. Like it's rebel-ish of the way they've been playing, where it's we're going to be on the front foot, and as you saw with Ange at times, you're going to lose games by a lot of goals because if you don't have enough quality in front of net, you're going to get punched on the other side. I mean, Colorado had 24 shots in this game. Like they were all over Portland, and that red card late was more of a frustration thing, in my opinion, that happened after they're already down 2-0. So it the game was decided before a red card, and you got to give credit to Colorado because I think last week after that game, I was pretty down on them. I was wondering how they were going to respond and how Matt Wells was going to rally the troops because Portland looked good the week prior, and they were coming to town, and from the jump, they were all over Portland. It felt like two different teams came out of the locker rooms ready to go. So it was fun to watch, and I'm happy for Colorado fans.
This is how you know we're a home league when the
Yeah.
team that looked awful and on the
Uh huh.
road last week just looks like this, and vice versa. Um, Colorado, made this comment last week, and it still sort of holds true. Like I like looking at the passing network of every team. What's their shape look like? Colorado's makes 0 sense still. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a
It's
look at it.
Postacoglu like Tony. That's it. It's
It's
what it
like
is.
you got okay. It wasn't as crazy as last week. It seems a little bit more organized than last week, but anything would be more organized than last week. I mean, they've got just wingers playing in central midfielders playing higher than central forwards, and I guess it's just pretty fluid, and maybe that's kind of the chaos of it. There's not a lot of strong correlation with any of their passing. But I mean, they made it work. They had a great offensive game. Maybe something about Seattle made them look pretty stale, but they put up 25 shots, 14 of those on target. So had a really good offensive take at things. Made some good opportunities. Though I would say also made a lot of like kind of make a wish opportunities too. And basically about half were like really good and the other half were really bad, and there was no in between when it came to Colorado's chances. So maybe an interesting thread to just watch with that. I think though, out of all of this, I mean, Colorado being great was surprising, but Portland being terrible was also surprising. I mean, okay, not
This
surprised.
is
It's coming
sorry,
from
I
a
make that
Portland
face.
hater, by the way. Yeah,
I know. I make that face just because this is what I feel like I saw all last year with Portland was
yeah,
they would be so hot and cold, and it really depended on if they were home or away at times. So I think I expected them to not do it as much this year, and especially against the Colorado side that looked as bad as they did last week. That's why I'm
right.
making the face that I'm making.
Here's the thing with Portland is last year defense was clearly their problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't do anything really to switch out that back line. They brought in Bonateg, and that's it. Now, okay, who else did they lose? Ayala, he went to Miami. You replace him with Cole Bassett. You got Diego Chara. Your defensive mid core is supposed to be pretty strong too. Like Cole Bassett's nothing to sneeze at. And actually, this was the Cole Bassett Bowl. I can't believe we didn't
Yeah.
advertise that. Um, and it just felt like it didn't matter. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
they were getting all kinds of opportunities, good and bad, but a bad opportunity is better than no opportunity. Like it just felt like Swiss cheese. Like they could just run right up and knew that they were going to get a shot out of their possession, basically. That's the part that confuses me with Portland because I felt like even the midfield is regressing some. There was also some bad luck, I think, a little bit. I mean, they had a really good opportunity. Guerra had like a point 0.6 xG opportunity, it was like right on the 6 yard box that he probably should have put away. He didn't. How does that change the game? You never know. But that was a surprising part, and where I'm kind of a little bit under the mindset that I think that this is kind of very flourish, if not a little bit beneath their floor for what Portland will normally put up, especially when we're watching Portland at home. I think they'll be better than this. So right now it's week 2. I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling patient. I'll say I'll give you guys a one-off here. That wasn't you. I'll still put my faith. You can't be as Portlandy as last year, right? So that's what I'm giving them a freebie here on this one.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. I
All
think
right.
Colorado, you're gonna try and build off this one. I think Matt Wells. It's important to win early when you're a new manager. You don't want to start off the season as a new manager with loss after loss because that's how you lose a locker room. So I think it was good to get this win and will be interesting to watch because, like I said, as you can tell here, I've watched a decent amount of Ange Postacoglu ball, and I was watching this game and I was like, it's chaos, and there's going to be some games that looks like this, and you're going to feel great, and there's going to be some games where you get countered to death. Like I can't imagine this team going against LAFC like that. I'm like that's the
Yeah.
disaster matchup. So we'll be interesting to see how they adjust to that. Next game here, Tony, we do not want to talk about. So but I kind of want to skip over it, but I
Yeah.
won't. Was Minnesota at home versus FC Cincinnati? This one finishes 1-0 off a free kick rebound. Kelvin Yeboah. Was he offside? Maybe. I'm not going to use that as an excuse for this one because the Minnesota had all the better chances. Like if the sheer quality of chances they had were a lot better and probably could have scored in a few other opportunities. And FC Cincinnati had the possession and felt like they couldn't get within the 6 yard box at any point. And that's what it came down to. It was a cold weather game. FC Cincinnati really from the jump looked like the way better side. Felt like they were gonna score. And after that like 20ish minute mark, Tony, I remember watching this game and being like, they're gonna really regret not finishing a chance here because you're just inviting the home team to get back into the game
Yeah.
when you don't grab a horns. And the broadcast said it multiple times. Like you could feel it,
Mm.
and once it switched. And it, you felt an Evander sized hole in the middle of that field to create chances, quality chances with his injury, and I think he's expected to be back next week, so that's good news for FC Cincinnati. But this was the first road loss for FC Cincinnati, and it was like a year and a half at this point, close to it,
Something crazy.
and they were on quite a run. And for Minnesota, I mean, quite a bounce back for a side that still doesn't have James Rodriguez. He was on the bench to not play in this one. It looked like he was dying in the cold on the sideline. It was the look
Yeah.
of a man that regretted
Yeah.
his decision.
He's like, why
Um,
did I sign here? Yeah.
but nonetheless, the Minnesota gets that goal late. Yeboah taps it in, and they hold on. So you got to give them credit. And it's a home league, man. It's what it is. FC Cincinnati tried to beat it for as long as they could, but
Yep.
sooner or later it's going to come up to you.
I'm so happy to hear you're finally drinking the juice with me on the Homer stuff. But
I'm still going to end up picking most road wins on
like
accident
five road
and
wins,
then
yeah.
lose all the picks. Yeah.
I mean, hey, that's maybe I try and play the game a little too much with that, and then don't really look at what the matchups are. So that's hand up. That's on me. Admin actually needs to keep track of how we're doing with our predictions. Haven't seen that in a minute, so I don't
Yeah.
know how well I've pulled through.
By the way,
But
quick shout out. Is it Pereira that's the right winger for them, for Minnesota?
yes,
He was fantastic in this game.
very
Like
good.
dicing up the midfield on attack and counter opportunities. So you got to give him credit. Like I said, they absorbed and just countered. Like it was this was classic Minnesota from last year. It's a different formation. It's not the same. They didn't have to take on as many shots as they were used to last year, but they really did invite a little pressure. And then once that one interception happened, it felt like they were up the field in an instance, ready to attack at any moment.
Yeah, I think the difference between last year's Minnesota and the Minnesota we saw in this game was that they did attempt to possess, and I think that's what made them really strong. And I mean, honestly, deserved winners of this game was that they were able to break the kind of half press that Cincinnati was throwing at them. You look at their passing map, like a lot of times the typical team, you just kind of see the ring where everybody's passing around with their center backs, their outside back and forth. They were finding their center mid so much. Like they have just a crazy web built up of a really strong passing network between their center backs and their midfielders, their outside backs and their wingers. Like they were able to really manipulate their movement the way they wanted to in this game. They were able to advance against Cincinnati the way they wanted to this game. And so, Yeboah onside or not, I think there was more opportunities for Minnesota, and that game would have played out differently. They like I said, were the deserved winner of that game. So I think it's a really impressive look for Minnesota, and definitely one that if you're next on their schedule, I think you gotta be scared a little bit. From the Cincinnati side, I mean, yeah, I agree with the Evander size hole. But I also think that there was just some lack in being clinical in chances. I mean, Cincinnati did have 3 shots within the 6 yard box, and all of those were off target. Now, they're glancing headers, different level of difficulty, but, there was a danky opportunity right outside the 6 yard box that he kind of scuffs, and it lands right into Calendar's hands. Opportunities like that, I think, are frustrating from a Cincinnati perspective. You just wish a little bit more would have been done with that. So and that's kind of what I'll throw in for that. The last thing I will say is that Celentano is on a generational run for 2 games. I mean, he's like already saved like almost 2 goals, like post shot expected. So he's standing on his head these last 2 games, and certainly something that Cincinnati will need to lean on really heavily. And if if he falls through, I think the floor really drops a lot for Cincinnati
Yeah,
too.
I
So
mean,
I mean,
two
that's
weeks
true
in,
of
I
any
think.
keeper, but
Yeah, I think 2 weeks in, you can't point to Cincinnati's defense as being an issue. I know they get a lot of flack for Miles Robinson being a DP, but
yeah, he looked
the
good
only goal you've allowed in 2 weeks is a rebound free kick.
off a
It's
post. Yeah,
not even something you can really even defend. And it's just you got to give you both credit for being the first guy to the ball, and that's what
right.
happened. So
Well, should that shot have gone through a 9-man wall? That's another question.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but anyways, we can move on.
yeah. Let's move on. That's too depressing to talk about. Let's go into Real Salt Lake at home versus Seattle here. Home league, Tony. RSL gets it done 2 to
Boom.
1. They get 2 goals. The first 2 goals of this game. Roldan gets one back late. These are two teams that are very injured right now, so you're not seeing either of these two teams' best squad by any means. I mean, you've got Luna out for RSL, Yelvin out for RSL. Then on the other side, you've got Morris, you've got De La Vega, you've got. I mean, let me see. There's 8 people out on this injury list already.
Yeah.
This is like a Seattle. Every year with Seattle, it's like this, and it's astonishing to look at. Now, I still think Seattle probably had the better squad in this one, and it was an impressive performance for RSL to get all 3 points at home against a team like Seattle. I, I think at times you see Seattle's best early in the season too. Like the amount of years we've seen them get off to just such a good start with because they bring back so many of the same guys every year. They don't have that adjustment period for a lot of the players, and I got to give RSL credit. This is where in the preseason we talked about them being a scrappy team that are going to get results like this, and you watched it firsthand, and I think they deserve this game. I know that some of the stats are going to show that Seattle had just as much of a chance, but that's where if it's in that 50-50-ish area in the stats wise, that's where you lean to a home team, and that's why this is a home league because that can just make that little bit of difference in a certain spot in the game. So credit to RSL, very much so. We're a counter-attacking team in this one, but that as we've seen over the years in MLS, you can win games in the regular season that way. Like you can win games by not being the best team on the field, but being more clinical with your chances.
Yeah. And I mentioned Celentano as being really hot on my goalkeeper power rankings. I think he's probably number 2 behind Rafael Cabral after this game because he played just lights out and in my opinion, single handedly the reason that RSL stayed alive in this game and ended up winning it. His post shot expected goal numbers are like 2 and change. Like RSL should have already given up like 2 more goals this season than what they have. And I think probably a goal and a half of that came from this game particularly. So I mean, he played really well and is what frustrated Seattle, who had a lot of good chances before, like in this game, and could have swung either way. So I think that's where a lot of the credit has to go with this RSL team. And you mentioned the injuries. We did get to see a little bit of Gulavogi at the last 20 minutes of this game. He doesn't do anything to get on a score sheet, but it seemed pretty promising look from there. I saw a lot of RSL fans very excited based on what they saw for the couple minutes they got out of him on that. So this is a good momentum upswing for them. And on top of all of that, we're in the Red Bulls train too. With these injuries, the kids get the minutes, and it was the kids that ended up, carrying this to a win. I'm gonna mess up his last name, but Aiden Hezarkhani. I think that's not bad. Hezarkhani, 18 years old, goal score was the first goal scorer. Like they are pulling out from their academy too, and I think that's what you see. I mean, I'm not calling RSL a championship team, but like a lot of these high tier teams, what they're able to do is they operate at really high calibers from every like place that they can pull talent from, every place that they can use to prop themselves up, and that's what gets you points, and that's why people really go on these rampages about talking about player kids, because, and this is why, because the more that they're prepared for moments like these, the more that they can rescue you in injury bugs and international breaks and those kind of things. So just a lot to applaud for RSL. For Seattle, I think it's one of those things where, it's an off night. And I think I saw something too that Seattle has not won in Sandy, Utah in a really long time. So we should have
Really?
seen that streak coming. Yeah, that's on us. Hand
Where
up.
was Tim Spix with that one?
I
Wait,
know,
yeah,
right?
no, he did have this one, didn't
He
he?
did have RSL, but I think for
Yeah.
different reasons. Because I think he thought Diego Luna was going to run train here, but uh, his outfit
Did
was
not think
killer
so.
though. I don't know if you saw his pregame outfit. He showed up cowboy hat and like boots and
Oh, I
stuff, and
didn't. I should.
walking
Oh,
around like who's the guy from Yellowstone? John Dutton. He was it was like he owned the place. So that was the vibes that they needed for that game for sure.
that's funny. Yeah, congrats to RSL. Home league, got to win at home. Moving on here, we have what in my opinion the second best story so far in the MLS in the early season in terms of teams not expected to do what they're doing, and that is San Jose winning 2-0 against Atlanta. Another home win. They are going after this Bruce Arena second year jump, Tony. It is a real thing and we talked about it in the preseason. Like, can he do it with this squad that's losing Arango and so late? How are you going to replace that? They still haven't replaced it. Timo Werner showed up, I think, on Thursday and featured in this game, gets an assist late, showed what he's like capable of doing. Like, he showed off that he still has that pace to win a 1v1 duel and get the ball across, and in this case didn't have to test his finishing ability, was able to lay it off for a tap in goal, and that's why they brought him in. And on this other side of things, I'm gonna go hand up very early in the season, Tony. I really thought Atlanta, the Tata thing was gonna happen. This team stinks. I don't even care about overreacting. I don't care. This
It's
team
not an overreaction.
stinks. This team stinks, and they're now losing back-to-back 2-0 games. They haven't scored. Latte Loth might go down as the worst MLS signing of all time, and it's tough to watch. But you've got to give credit to San Jose. They won 2-0. This could have been worse than 2-0. They had all the best chances, and you don't say this a lot, and this year you've been able to say it twice now. This defense played great again. So you got to give them credit. It's not a great offensive side they're going against, but they took care of
Yeah,
business.
they did. I mean, the defense part of the San Jose team, I'm gonna definitely chalk up to just Atlanta being trash.
And they back-to-back shutouts, though.
Yeah, I mean, but here's what I mean by that. I know I've been talking about passing networks way too much today, so this will hopefully be my last reference. But if you look at a passing network, you basically see a weighted line, like how thick is a line for, how much that pass happens, right? There is the biggest red fat highlighter Sharpie between the goalkeeper, the left center back, and the right center back for Atlanta. And those were the only three passes they could make in this. Like, everything else is tiny little pencil. Like, they had so little going on. They could not build up how they wanted to. You could look at that and say, hey, San Jose pressing, that really disrupted what they were trying to do. Maybe some, but just knowing what I know about San Jose, knowing how they really didn't change a whole lot defensively, to me that feels like that's an Atlanta problem. That's not a San Jose gold star. So that part, that's where I'm like, oh, Atlanta's in rough shape. However, I'm here to give San Jose credit too, because they did look really good offensively. Seeing Timo Werner do that is, like, I think, not that puts like this case to bed, but the biggest talking point around him was he has not played like barely any minutes for a really extended period now. Like, we're talking about years. Like, does he still have it? Does he still have that athleticism, that energy? And it really feels like that was a very strong case for, yes, he's still got it. So that's like a little bit of the monkey off your back with San Jose and with Timo Werner, and Preston Judd now. Like, I've kind of, I'll say it. I'm taking my plaudits for this one. Preston Judd, I've always been like, he's all right, and like I think we still are seeing that. Like, he is serviceable starting striker. He's not going to be the guy that you want to depend on in the Western Conference Final, I don't think. But as far as an innings eater, as far as getting points in the regular season, like that is a guy that I would trust. I would love to have him as a secondary striker or, your preferred off the bench kind of guy. But he works as a starter right now. And if Timo Werner is going to be feeding him and setting him up like that, I'd still have optimism for this attack, even though they've lost so much talent over the offseason. So that's the parts that I'm high on with San Jose. I don't think that we should get used to seeing them and where they're at the table. But I do think we could get used to maybe seeing them in a playoff spot. I think that's very realistic. And like you said, it's just kind of the Bruce effect. He's starting to get a little bit more of the guys that he wants in, on top of when you get a random freebie like Timo Werner just pop up. Anything can happen. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to watch them. They're a fun team to watch.
yeah, totally. I think that we might be the first podcast ever to reference a striker as an innings eater. So I like that claim to fame.
Oh yeah, I mean, I use that term. I love that term for MLS because it's a long season. But yeah, we'll coin that. I'm sure that was just me.
Yeah, you're pulling our baseball terms out.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's move on. Congrats to San Jose, to Dallas at home versus Nashville. A game a lot of people thought Nashville would just keep rolling high, and I think it ends up 0-0. It's probably the most boring game of the week if you were tuning into any of these. Neither team had ton of chances. The red card, you might say, oh, that's why Nashville. The red card didn't happen until really late in this game, so
Yeah.
that didn't really play that much of a factor. I think I'm more impressed from a Dallas perspective in this one. I know you're at home, so you want to win, and they had their chances, but everyone is very high on this Nashville attack, and rightfully so. I mean, they showed it in week one, and the amount of just goal scorers they have at their disposal up top and facilitators. So it it was something you expected Nashville to come in, and this was going to be a high scoring game because Dallas scores and they don't have a great defense.
Mm-hmm.
And this defense for Dallas played fantastic. Like in the midfield specifically, really dominated this game, in my opinion, when watching some of it. They were intercepting the ball, they were winning the ball back, and unfortunately weren't able to turn it into a ton of opportunities. And I think that's where you're missing the true, like, high value number 10 at this point for Dallas to go along with Musa. But for them to get a point against this Nashville squad early in the year and to play this well defensively in this game, I give them a lot of credit because I don't think a lot of people had them even getting a point out of this one.
Yeah, I think that is certainly worth noting. Surge not being in this game took a lot of the wind out of the sails for Nashville. I believe he was sick, which is just a bummer from that sense. But I agree with you. I think that the Dallas defense does need some credit. I think Uragade has looked good in these first two games of the season. And it's a matter of finding that click for them. I'm still always, like, when just thinking about Dallas, when talking about Dallas, I'm going to hold over that they kept talking about a DP number 10 and then never brought one. And, like, this is the kind of game that, like, you need that game breaker to unlock. And he wasn't there. And so, like, when you get kind of a little bit of a gift where the way team's star player is sick and can't play, like, that just feels like a really missed opportunity to grab more than just 1 point at home. So that's where I kind of feel with Dallas on this. With Nashville, I think the concern is that this game, was winnable as well, given that it is Dallas and they're not necessarily the highest on the table. And the narrative has been, okay, if it's not Surge, if it's not Mukhtar, then who? And we thought we got that answer with Espinoza. And I'm not saying he didn't do anything in this game, but like the third and fourth guys, the goal scorers that, you need to count on, again, felt like that it just wasn't there. So that's kind of like one of these games where you feel a little bit disappointed on both sides, I think. And I did see that on some guy's TikTok. A Dallas fan was like recapping the game, and Nashville fans were in there saying, like, we're just as mad. So it is one of those games that seemed like it was kind of a midfield meat grinder, and nobody really got their way with it. Definitely not one to go back and watch and probably just forget from recent memory for both teams.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a game though. Dallas may look back later in the year and this Nashville squad, which a lot of us think are gonna be rolling at some point, and I think you're gonna sit back and be like, hey, it's a okay that we got a point out of that game, and we're able to share points with them. So
Yeah,
I
possible.
think the longer the season goes, the more it's gonna age well. Let's keep moving here. Quite a few more games to still roll through. I think a couple quick hitters here. We don't spend too much time on these next two. Houston at home against LAFC. Kind of been a bugaboo for LAFC, so credit to LAFC coming on the road and taking care of business. Houston ends up with two red cards on Heung-min Son. The first one had a lot of people questioning, but then you see the images after the game where Son's ankle is like bleeding
Oh,
and
yeah.
cut up. Like, I mean, he stomped his ankle, whether you like it or not, and it's something he could have avoided. And the second one, in my mind, is also a no-brainer. I mean, Son's clear on goal, and the guy whips him, pulls him back
Yeah.
from behind, and that ends as a red card. But although Son didn't get on the score sheet in this one, he was clearly the focus of Houston, and they were just trying to say, we're not going to let this guy beat us. And he still beat them. Like, he still changed the game with the red cards and assisting on some balls. That Delgado goal was ridiculous off the corner
Beautiful.
kick, too.
Yeah.
To credit to him and LFC, I mean, this is why we have them so highly rated coming this year, that they are able to beat in so many different ways and have the star power now with Sun for a full season.
Correct. And I think that this was a game, like Houston obviously played a low block against LAFC. I think this did prove something in some ways because, LAFC being really strong in the counter, you love sending Bawanga in space, you love sending Sun in space. How do they break that down? Well, they were able to figure it out, right? The field tilt in this game is just, I mean, all LAFC. You look at the passing networks and just like the amount of passes in the final third for LAFC versus Houston, I mean, it was probably at least 5 times more for LAFC. Like they were just on top of Houston the whole game. But the big part is so many teams have trouble making that jump from, okay, they've got 10 guys, 9 guys in the box. How do we get a shot on goal? They were able to figure that out. I mean, Delgado found his moment. Eustachio found his moment. A little bit different goals, but both kind of long range through traffic. Um, that's the important part with LAFC is that not only do you have just a monster of a way of scoring, but now you have different ways of winning games. That's where they're set up right now, and I think the narrative in this game is way more about like LAFC saying, it doesn't matter how you play, we'll figure you out and beat you, more than it is Houston playing scared. I think it's more about like this is an LAFC that can decide how they want to beat you, and we'll do that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very dominant performance by them on the road. Road league, road league. Um,
That's right. That's
moving
it.
on, moving on here, we have SKC at home against Columbus. This game was chaos. The Columbus is going to come out of this one super disappointed with not getting all 3 points. They were clearly the better team for most of the game. Jovic is able to finish two chances to equalize twice, and that or no, equalize then take the lead.
Yeah.
Columbus scores right back here thereafter, and then Abu Ali misses that pen at the end of the game that would have given them all 3 points. It's a tough showing for Columbus. For the second straight time, I saw a clip. It looked like Rydstrom, if he had hair, would be pulling hair out of his head in the post game interview.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to take some time for them to really adjust to his system. But I mean, offensively, they played great. They just didn't finish a couple chances. They didn't finish the penalty, and they could be taking all 3 points on the road. So, I mean, credit to Jovic, credit to SKC for getting to point with about 13 senior rostered players. And for Columbus, you're coming on this one super disappointed.
Yeah, you're definitely coming out of this one super disappointed. I think for a lot of reasons, but I mean, you look at the XG on this one. I mean, they were expecting 3 goals at least. That didn't come. Obviously, the penalty is a crucial miss, but outside of that, I mean, they had some run of play opportunities that really should have been put away. They had classified 4 great chances, which I think is like point 0.5 or better. They only made one of those. So like that's the part that this honestly feels like Crew of old in that sense, where or Crew of last season, where they were looking for that finisher.
Did you see it, by the way, the Chains you're referring to?
Well, I
Because
know one of them was the Gazdag one.
oh my, well, I think that's probably also counting Diego Rossi on the far post misses like right in that
Yes.
moment, like in a chaotic like coming together of bodies, and then gosh, dog is just
Yeah,
sitting there,
just skies it.
wide open net, skies it. It was like, how do you like? I don't know, Philly. Hey, you can get after them all you want for how they sell players. Can't get after him about that one. They got out at the
Yeah.
perfect time with Gazdag because he's gone to Columbus and it couldn't be worse than he's ever been in his career right now.
It is insane. I don't know what they were feeding him in Philly that they aren't in Columbus. Like, something was working there that just clearly is not in Columbus, and they cannot wait to get past the Gazdag chapter. I mean, it. They've been complaining about him since like probably the third game they've had him, and like
Yeah.
now it's been about a year. So, but yes, bad finishing from Columbus, which is just really unfortunate. You bring in Abu Ali to like address that because that's been a problem for so long. And then he misses the penalty, the go ahead for you. And then on the other side, I mean, we'll be talking about this a lot. There's a Nagby sized hole in this midfield. And this defense has just been really injured for a really long time and not had everybody together at the same time. And it creates these liabilities where Crew are going to have to be the team that wins in the shootout in order to get points. And as we're kind of seeing in a moment here, I mean, yes, this is on the road, but it is Sporting Kansas City. That felt like a game you still had to win. That felt like a game that you were equipped to win, and just didn't. So that's the kicker with the Crew right now is just not really living up to their expectations and trying to figure out what all of this is.
Yeah, totally. Moving on here to a battle of Canada. Vancouver at home versus Toronto. And Vancouver still owns Canada, Tony. They, for second year running, are riding high with it. And this was about as dominant as a performance we saw all weekend from any team. I mean, completely deserved win. Toronto barely had a chance in this game. The defense for Vancouver was swarming at home, and then you have Moeller finish penalty. He finishes off a deflected header and a cross, and Brian White gets on the score sheet as well, all in the first half. So this game was done and dusted pretty early. It brings a lot of questions about Toronto early on and what they're going to look like because I think me included, I had a lot of expectations for
Yeah.
Toronto this year. I thought they made a lot of great moves. Those haven't panned out early just yet. Of course, Josh Sargent still hasn't played yet, so we're still waiting for him to come in and fill that nine position that they desperately need filled right now. But even if you fill that, the defense for Toronto early on this year has been very bad, and Walker Zimmerman specifically,
Yeah.
yeah, if you've watched either games, I mean, has not looked great. And maybe this is a time thing they need to adjust working together, but he looks aged, and I hate saying that, and I hate using that term, but he looks slow right now. And like I said, I'm hoping it's just an adjustment period, and Toronto's able to bounce back. But early on, if you're Chicago on one end, or sorry, Red Bulls on one end, being very excited about your season so far, the opposite spectrum right now is Toronto, and thankfully for Toronto fans, they have the Josh Sargent thing happening because I think they would be pulling their hair a little bit more if they knew that was not happening as well. Because the season could have tailspin really quick if that deal did not get done.
Yeah. I believe that Toronto, I'm just double checking this before I say it. They're tied for worst defense behind none other than Orlando City. 6 goals
Yeah.
given up in 2 games.
Yep.
So not good. And I agree with you. I think that the Walker Zimmerman thing is not panning out how they have planned it to. And hard to say if they were like gonna like, hey, you're gonna be the man, or hey, you're gonna be more of the Tim Ream, like, bring the experience thing, which spoiler alert, that's not going great with Charlotte this
Yeah.
season either.
Find out about
Um,
that in just a second.
yeah, exactly. Um, it's not working at the moment, and we're talking about this in 2 games in. It could figure itself out, but I think a combination of that and a combination of I think that moving on from Sean Johnson, they're going through the pains of that right now. I don't think that Gavron has lived up to that. And just kind of watching some of this goalkeeping, it's not at the same caliber as what it used to be. So it just we're missing some stability back there from Toronto. Maybe Josh Sargent coming in provides more of a scare. Teams have to back off a little bit on them, but that is like the worry is that it just seems like this back line cannot hold up anything. I mean, granted, Dallas is a good offensive team. Vancouver is a good offensive team, but still, 6 goals in 2 games is got to get better. So that's what we're watching with Toronto. With Vancouver, I mean, this is business as usual, right? I mean, you got to beat your, I guess rival like this. It's Canadian Classique, but we who didn't see this coming? You know what I mean? We knew that Vancouver was going to win this game. There was no worries about that, and they do it quite handily.
Yeah, I think there is levels to how you win it and for how it can be concerning for Toronto, which is where my
Yeah,
concern more comes into play. So we'll see. Like you said, it's early. You could still bounce back, and the Josh Sargent thing could be a real thing to help boost this team up a little bit. Tony, next game here, last game on Saturday. The Galaxy have won a game early in 2026. Couldn't say that for a very long time in 25. So
yeah,
that they're going to be happy to get on the score sheet. Klaus looks terrific in his role early on for the Galaxy. 3 goals already this season. Super dominant performance. Never really felt like they were in threat to allow a goal at any point in this game, barring a couple chances here and there. And like you preface, that Charlotte defense has not looked great early this year, and that's a concern with all the movement they've had in that back line now, and Melanda being gone. Like that guy, he's not coming back. You don't have that safety net of what he was back there anymore, and you can feel it. And for Galaxy, this is exactly how you want to come out in a home game and get 3 points early on is get 3 goals in 13 minutes. And once that happens, it kind of takes the air out of the game for both teams to a degree, and they were able just to coast to a victory in this one.
yeah. I think that a couple takeaways from this. Charlotte's offense also this season has just felt so
Yeah.
putrid. I know that. I mean, they scored last week, but they are really struggling. They're not creating a lot. I saw an interview with Charlotte's GM Zorna Cornetta, and they were asking about Zaha's contract because it's up middle of the season, and he was pretty non-committal, and it seems like it's
He's not
yeah,
staying. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't seem good if you're a Zaha for a Charlotte rooter. So, but I mean, maybe that's what they need. Maybe it's not. I'm not really. Jury's still out for me on that one. But that's a really big problem for them because I think then at that point that leaves your defense high and dry. We mentioned Melanda missing. Privet, who steps in for him so far this season, center back. I mean, had one of the really bad giveaways to Klaus, pass right to him, that let him in on goal. Reem also kind of got burnt on one of his goals, on one of their goals too. So it's just not looking good for the Charlotte defense at the moment. And we'll just leave it at that. For Galaxy, though, we got to celebrate this, I think, a little bit because I think they're back. I don't know.
Oh,
I mean,
welcome,
not like
welcome.
top 4 back, but hey, I had them. I think I had them in the playoffs on our preseason predictions. But here's the big thing.
Freaking better make the playoffs with that
Yeah,
payroll.
the big thing. Yeah, that's true. The big thing that I'm really excited about the Galaxy with right now, and I hope this sticks, is they got Peck rolling again, and that's the big thing. Obviously, 1 assist in this one to Klaus, but outside of that, I mean, he was really flowing. He was feeling it, and I think his shot actually leads to the Sanabria goal as well, that was spilled by Kalina. So, he was creating havoc, and like just being a positive contribution. Now he was not that last season. He was really stale. Firing away 25-yard shots to just land right in the breadbasket of the goalkeeper. Like, that was not the case in this game. And I'm hoping that it's not the case for the rest of the season or like he falls back into that because this this is a team that needs Peck and Paint so bad, and so at least to get one of them back and rolling like that, I think creates a lot of opportunities for him.
Yeah, Peck was fantastic in this one, especially early on. He was on the front foot. I think we saw a lot of times he was pretty passive last year, and
Yeah,
which was odd because the year before he was so aggressive, and I think that was an adjustment. I think Marco Royce is kind of threw that off initially too with that squad of hey how do we be on the front foot with this guy that we expect to kind of take over this Pooge role. So it was cool to see him drive the defender, especially in that first Klaus goal. I mean, he just from like the half field line basically just drove the fullback all the way down in the box and played that across to Klaus. So credit to the Galaxy, and they took care of business. Moving on here to the Sunday slate, we had Austin at home winning 1-0 against DC. This was a game that Austin deserved to win, and it came late and came against a guy who didn't even expect to be playing this game.
yeah,
Christian Ramirez signed, I think, Friday for Austin officially and suited up for this game on Sunday and subbed on and got the goal to win the game. Really gross goal, like in the box off that. It was gross, but they all count the same. If they get in the back of the net, they all count the same. And it was one of those goals you were like, that was gross, but it was deserved for how many chances Austin had in this game. I think that is a scary part for if you're an Austin fan. It's like this is you get PTSD from last year a little bit, and then for DC, it was really come down to earth a little bit in terms of PTSD of last year as well, where you're going, oh god, we need a little bit more from this attack, and it's going to be hard to win on the road for this squad.
yeah. I guess Ramirez just did not make the scouting report for some reason on DC
Yeah,
United, so that's why he
I
gets the goal.
honestly I get it. I get it. I couldn't believe he was playing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was, but like he was just in, like playing what? I mean, how? Why he didn't really play for the Galaxy now? That I think
No,
about
that's
it.
what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
not like he has played any games or anything this year. It was more so. You just don't see that turn on very quickly. By the way, I love our special guest in the background here.
yeah, oh yeah. Look at that. Looking. Oh, he knows we're talking about him.
for
um,
for the audio listeners, Tony's dog just came in
yeah.
in
This is a
the
reminder.
video.
Check out YouTube. Check out the video feature of
Spotify has
Spotify.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
You can see it there too.
yeah. That was totally planned plug. Um, but no, this was a game that also felt like they were very afraid to attack each other, like
Yeah.
or maybe more so expose themselves to the counterattack is the part that I'm thinking of because
Mhm.
like this was a shy game, not a lot of opportunities for either team, and like just watching it, it felt like almost like grabbing the TV and screaming at it, like go forward, do something. And maybe that was on me too because I was folding laundry while watching this too, so it was a really dull moment for me in my weekend at that, but. I don't know. This game was a little bit frustrating to watch. It at least came to a really fun conclusion, I think, for Ramirez and like just rooting for a human personally. But also like for Austin, watching a home opener stadium light up like that with the winner at the death is also pretty fun too.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun scenes. I'm sure McConaughey was somewhere celebrating.
Yeah,
Okay, moving on here, we've got Philly at home versus NYCFC. This one ends in NYCFC victory on the last kick of the game. And this is a pretty nightmare start for Philly this season. We talked about it. We were worried about them coming into the season. We told ourselves they can't keep getting away with this, and it feels like they're not this year.
yeah,
So NYCFC goes up, and deservedly so. They controlled a lot of that first half, and then Union get that late penalty. You're like, okay, they're salvaging a point out of this game. You feel good. Then the red card happens, and then chaos ensues at that point. And Gray, the fullback, gets the game-winning goal. In the dance that he pulled off after, if you haven't seen it, it's great.
yeah,
And it was brutal home game for Philly. Like, first home game. Like, that is a tough way. I couldn't imagine being in the stands for that one. To start your
yeah.
year as a fan and as a team, and they're now got 0 points out of 2 games against teams that you would have said last year they were taking care of business against. And this is what we talked about. I mean, when you change up your rotation as much as they do every year, this is bound to happen. And I think that's where the concerning part is for Philly and how they're going to adjust. And credit to NYCFC. I mean, they took advantage, and this is a very open game, and they just finished more of their chances when it came down to it.
Yeah, and it felt too like there's a little bit of the Union spunk that at least wasn't there for this game, but now this is 2 games in a row where, especially the first goal, like it's a save shot, falls right at Hannes Wolf's feet. He's able to tap it in, but it just seems to me like, I mean, obviously you can't defend that perfectly, but I'm used to Philly giving that a lot harder time than what that was. Like to score that easily on them, I think it was surprising in that. And I know this is an upside down game. Controversial no call for PK, and then controversial call for PK after that. Honestly, if I were the ref, I think I would have flip flop decisions there. But whatever. They got their one PK that they probably deserved. They put it away. But yeah, it felt like there's this fire that's been missing with the Union, and then on top of that, red card or second yellow rather for Macania. That's a second straight red for Philly players. Where it's like verbal, it was not on the ball like kind of thing. So it feels like there's different vibes going on right now in Philly, and certainly something to watch. And another track record thing. Now, I hopefully I don't curse this, but like Bradley Carnell, first season with St. Louis, fantastic. They won the Western Conference. Second season, fired. So, just something to figure out there. I don't know if that's his thing, if he's a one and done kind of guy, but it's feeling a little bit shaky.
Yeah, we'll see. And I feel bad for him because I think he's in a tough spot with the roster that's put around him. So can't really put all the blame on him. Let's move on here, though. Tony, we got two more games to cover. The game that Orlando fans go ahead and just skip because I know you don't want to listen to this one. But Orlando loses 4-2 to Miami at home. Rough start of the season for Orlando. They go up 2-0 in the first half. Our group chat is talking about it. You feel great as a Miami hater, being like, "Hey, this is crazy. I can't believe Miami's going to start the season 0-2." Second
Yeah,
half happens, and Messi basically just decided that this game's over and has the rocket off his foot to tie the game, and then has the free kick to put the icing on the cake at the end. And this is the beast is awoken. That's what I took out of this game is here we go. Like this is what they're capable of in one half to put up 4 goals with all the talent they have offensively. And for Orlando, I think this is pretty concerning that you could not control this game at all in the second half. Like there
yeah,
wasn't a moment in the second half where I thought they were any threat to score or control possession. And it's basically Miami just like deciding locker rooms like, hey guys, we have to actually start playing. And they just came out and were like, we're better from top to bottom. And it was pretty dominant.
yeah. I think that. I mean, I think a lot of things, but Messi's inevitable, right? Like, how many times do I need to remind myself when picking a lineup in fantasy? I just like you can't leave
I did
Messi
it.
off, Like so I did on week one, and then I thought, oh, I should just do it again, Messi, but
Sun
then
dryer Messi. Just don't overthink it.
and then just play the cheapest, the last available option
Yep.
for everything else. Yeah, that's it. So that's the part that like it's just unbelievable, that he's still able to do this new season. Old Messi, like this is just what it is, right? Um, I echo a lot of the things though with Orlando that you were mentioning, but with the context of I know that this is still not a finished product. There's injuries that I think are really holding them back. I think the Gusky thing, his red card, that was unfortunate. I think they're counting on him for more. The young Brazilian came on, and I'm just going to give him the half glass full kind of take and say, I think he just needs some minutes. But it doesn't look good back defensively, and I think a lot of that's kind of circumstances that's outside of them, but I don't know that. And then they need Griezmann bad. Griezmann comes soon. Like like the other part of this is, they need that as well. But yeah, Orlando just completely slipping out like that. I worry that this game is going to look like many games that Orlando plays. Now, it's not going to be messy. Maybe it doesn't get as out of control, like four straight unanswered in the second half like that. But I just think that, to your point, I don't think Orlando has a very good grip on these games that they're playing, and these slopes can get slippery really quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough way to start the year, and Miami's going to be happy to get all 3 points finally, and I'm sure we're going to see them start cruising offensively. And we haven't even seen the best of some of their attackers. Like we haven't seen
Yeah,
Allende do anything really yet. Bertarame hasn't scored yet, so
right.
they still are scratching the surface of what they can be. So we'll see how it goes. Last game to cover here, Tony, really quick. San Diego at home versus St. Louis. This feels like a quick hitter. They
Yeah.
score early. Not really much of a threat to score from either team for most of this game. It was another midfield battle type game, but San Diego was able to finish a couple of their big chances, and that's what it came down to. And I think this is what you're going to see a lot from St. Louis this season.
Vintage San Diego. That's what this one was. Obviously, really heavy right leaning in this game, but that's Andre Dreyer's side. You just run everything through him, man, and it works. That's, like you said, Andre Dreyer's son, or and Messi. Why did I forget the Messi one? Um, but I mean, he's just been fantastic. I actually saw a stat today that he's the second fastest in MLS history to hit 20 goals and 20 assists, only behind Messi. So, yeah, I mean, he's just been lights out for San Diego. There's something different in the water over there. But also, again, this was I don't know if I called this one my coughing baby hydrogen bomb game, but I should have, even though it was only 2-0. I mean, the lineup, St. Louis never really had a chance in this. Didn't create much. San Diego held control the whole time, and that's what we're used to seeing with San Diego. So,
Yeah, yeah. San Diego's doing San Diego things. That the second year is not slowing them down, and I really do think they came this year pretty in a pretty good spot because of CONCACAF as well. They played a couple games before the season actually started and were able to
yeah.
get that footing underneath them. So that I think that's helping them early on this season. Okay, well that's going to do it for the first week or second week, our first week of covering these games on a Tuesday episode. So we appreciate you guys tuning in for this. Really quick though, we're going to do a quick little segment. We're going to start doing this every Tuesday at the end of each episode. Top 10 rankings, and I briefed Tony a little bit of what my rankings were, and this is my list, and I'll preface that for those because everyone gets upset about ranking lists.
Mm.
This is strictly this year. This is not who I expect to win the MLS Cup. This is current form right now. Who are the best 10 looking teams to me currently? And that's what I base this off of. My one caveat, probably in all of these lists, is going to be Miami, because I don't care if Miami doesn't look fantastic. They're still so talented that I can't really keep them out of a top 10 no matter what their form is,
Yeah.
because they have the best player in the world. So there's that. I'll say that before I start my list. So we'll just start from 10 to 1 here. I'm going to share my screen here. I got a little tier list for us to look at for the listeners to check out as well. Okay.
Mm.
So 10 through 1. We'll start at 10. We'll do a little conversation. You can talk to me if you disagree, Tony, about
Yep.
my list here. I think the controversial ones are probably going to start at the bottom here, the 8, 9, 10 range. But to start us off, Tony, a little bit of a shocker one here. There's only 12 teams that have 4 or more points this season, so that you don't really have a wide list to really fill in all of these 10 spots, in my opinion. And if you have 4 more points, that means you played well enough in the first 2 games to be in this top 10 ranking. And I'm going to start with Dallas. So this is an odd one, and I think people are going to maybe scratch their head a little bit. I think they showed off their offense in that week 1. You're happy about that. That looks great. And then I think the way they're able to adjust in the second week and get that point at home, I talked about earlier in the podcast about how I am impressed with their ability to adjust and play well defensively against this Nashville side, which everyone in the world thought they were going to go in and score 2 to 3 more goals against a team like Dallas. So I think just from what I've seen this season from Dallas, what they're able to do with Peter Musa on the attack, of course that wasn't shown in week 2 as much,
Yeah.
But to then adjust against a really good Nashville side a lot of people have very high in their list this season, and to get a point out of that game, I think is going to age well as the season goes on. So I have Nashville or Dallas in that 10 spot.
I'll allow it for now. I think ten's one of the. I'll let you keep going because 10 will be like, okay, seriously, with these other 20 teams, you didn't put so and so in over them. So I'll leave it for now. But I will. I'll probably poke him. Well, I know I'm poking and prodding later, so I'll save that for the more important power spots,
Okay,
not the
okay.
10. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, let's move to this 9 spot. Here I have Austin, Tony. Another team that is in that 4 point range and hasn't looked fantastic all the time, but I think they've shown enough to me offensively that they can score a little bit more this year than they did last year so far. The defenses looked good. They showcased that at home this past week. Christian Ramirez, I think, is going to be a really sneaky good signing for this team. They just need someone to finish chances. And I know LA Galaxy, Christian Ramirez wasn't something to write home about. I think that whole team was cursed. I don't think you really can really put that on
Yeah.
Christian Ramirez. And before that, we saw him at Columbus as just a clinical finisher of chances. And I think while Vasquez is out, especially, that's what they need. They just need someone up top to be a veteran presence, feed him the ball. Facuna Torres, Uzzini, like get him chances and he'll put him in the back of the net. And I think you saw that in his short stint in the second half in that game, and why I have them early on here at that 9 slot.
So I'll go ahead and I'll kind of push. I kind of like Dallas more than Austin in this
Okay.
sense, just because I think I've been impressed with Dallas's defense so far this season. That's also coming from their game one where they gave up 2 goals against Toronto. I understand that, but I think that just between the sticks, they have a good keeper. Urquide has looked really good at center back. And then you throw in the mix that we got Petter Musa. Logan Farrington's been a great Robin to Musa's Batman. And there's still flaws here, right? I mean, we're talking about 9 and 10. There's things I kind of feel like are already marring Dallas's season. But when it comes to Austin, the Zuni stuff, that was one of the things I didn't mention when watching this DC game. He had at least 2 opportunities he should have put away. One was kind of like an empty net thing.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating with him. And like, I mean, Vasquez was really struggling before his injury. Hopefully that turns around when he gets back. But I just Austin offensively, sure Christian Ramirez might help, but I have too many qualms with them. So I would have pushed a little, maybe flipped them, but I think they're probably in the good territory with that like late 10
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
situation.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of teams could fight through that 9 through 12 section if you're part of
Sure.
that
Sure.
group, and it's probably pretty fluid. You can make an argument for all of them. Let's move on to that next tier, in my opinion, and that's going to start with LA Galaxy. I have them at the 8 slot. Of course, have that week 1 game that you're not super pumped about, and it felt like a missed chance to get all 3 points.
Yeah.
But to bounce back the way they did against a solid Charlotte team from last year and absolutely blitz them in the first 13 minutes of that game, Jacques Klaus early on is looking like a great pickup for them in terms of just a finisher of chances to go along with those wingers. It feels like something that Christian Ramirez should have filled in and it should have worked. And I don't know if it's Zhao Klaus, Tony. I mean, he's a good striker. He's a quality striker. I think you're seeing more of the wingers being productive this year versus last year. We talked about it earlier. Gabriel Peck just driving the ball and then dishing it over to Klaus. You didn't see that as much last year. It felt like more range shots. It felt like more range crosses in. And this year, it feels like they're more in the attack, especially in this past game. So I have them in that 8 slot. I think there's a little bit of projection here that I think there's still a pretty high ceiling for them as well. So I think it's exciting to see them really get off on a good note here in 2026 and get an early win. You couldn't say that last year.
Yeah, you couldn't, and I think that that's a fair spot for them. And another name of the Galaxy we haven't mentioned today that's certainly worth mentioning is Glesnes. He's looked really good in the Galaxy kit so far. Only allowing 1 goal in 2 games for the Galaxy is like uncharted territory. Even in the
Yeah.
MLS Cup winning years, they were all gas, no brakes offensively, really leaky in the back. So, I mean, Glesnes has really solidified a lot of that too. I think giving them a new kind of safe common ground to build off of and restructure things, and has been a pretty big part of both these games that they've gotten results out of so far. So I think that's a big part of them, landing in this top 10 as well.
Yeah. Coming in at the number 7 spot, I have Nashville, Tony, a team we talked about in conjunction with Dallas. They had the week 1 performance that was dominant, exactly what you expect from this attack and the way they've built this attack. Week 2, they don't showcase that as well. It is on the road, and they were without Surge because of sickness. So you've really got to note that. I mean, this is
Yeah.
Golden Boot candidate in Sam Surge and scored 2 goals week 1. So I think that is a pretty big loss for them. Of course, we both think they could have done more in that Dallas game, but I think to still get a point out of that on the road after a week 1 dominant performance, I think a 7 spot is safe for them because I think a lot of people have them in that top 5 in terms of teams in the MLS if you're thinking about who could win the MLS Cup this year.
Yeah. And like, just if we, like last week, if we would have done the power rankings, how far they probably would have
Yeah.
dropped from this week to last week. I think that it just shows a little bit of fragility from them. Like if Surge is not available, if one of your stars is not available, like how much does that lower your potential in any given game? So that's the fear with Nashville. We saw a little bit of that play out against Dallas, but that's prime overreaction Monday happening as well too. So I think leaving them at 7 is smart. I'll take them over the other 3 that we've already named. Yeah, I mean they still got a lot of great players, so we'll
Yeah.
leave it there.
This is where our list starts to hit the range, Tony, where I want to re echo. This is current form in the league. It is not projection based. This is current form. And I don't think you're going to have Nashville below these next 2 teams if you were just projecting who's going to the MLS Cup. And we're going to start with the San Jose Earthquakes. And if I would have told you before the season, Tony, that I'd have San Jose at my number 6 in the power rankings before the season started, you'd sign up for that if you're a San Jose fan
Oh
10
yeah.
times out of 10. And the Bruce Arena 2nd-year bump is fully upon us. It is something that happens at all of his stops. So I'm interested to know if this is going to continue in this trend with San Jose. And Timo Werner makes an appearance in this one, gets an assist in his brief appearance. In San Jose, they're 2-0. They took care of business at home early on this year. They have won pretty dominantly and have had shutouts in both of their games. And I think you could probably argue them being ahead of my next team if you really wanted to as well, just because of how dominant they've looked offensively and defensively at times.
So this is where I start to question what power rankings really are. But
It's
like,
current form power rankings.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
So in theory, this is kind of how I hold it up: is anyone who's got a higher number on the power ranking, if they played somebody that was lower. So for example, if Nashville 7 played San Jose 6, San Jose would win. Is that how you look at it?
no, all this power rankings list really is right now based on the 2 games we've watched them play. Who has looked the best in those 2 games? It doesn't matter who they're playing. I'm not taking account who they're playing. In the 2 games they've played, they've looked very well. And you can say that about San Jose. They've won 3-0 and 2-0
Yeah,
at home. And if I'm doing projection based, hey, if I were to watch San Jose versus Nashville in week 3 and on a neutral ground per se, who would I pick? It probably would still be Nashville, but based on what I've seen on the field and how they've performed from a statistical standpoint, you can point and say San Jose has 6 points this season in 2 dominant ways this year.
gotcha. Okay, well, I'll disagree. I'll agree to disagree on what power rankings are. Then, at least for me, maybe I've got the wrong impression this whole time, and that's why I think people are so bad at these. But I would put Nashville over San Jose. But no, all that to say, though, I mean, I do think that San Jose is a top 10 team in that sense. I think that, I'll echo everything you said. They've looked really good. And especially not giving up a goal yet this season is something that I cannot believe I'm saying about San Jose. So they definitely have made a big jump, it seems like, at least from these first 2 games. So excited for them, excited with the team over in their chapter. That seems like that could really do some damage to some teams.
Yeah. Coming in the 5 spot, a very similar team to San Jose, Tony. In my opinion, we have the New York Red Bulls. This is a team that new manager Michael Bradley Julian Hall has 3 goals early in this year, 17-year-old. They have multiple 17-year-olds in the field, but they're also um, right alongside the Forsbergs of the world, which can produce and has produced in week one. You saw his solo chance creation that created that one of those goals for Julian Hall. So they have that balance. So it's not a team I would have expected to have this high early on the season. I did not expect them to come out this hot early on the season, but I can't argue about their performances that they've put on the field and the way they've performed in terms of the way they're playing is exciting. It is a fun brand. You've been able to say that about Red Bulls for a very long time and how they've played. So I think I've got to give them credit here. I got to give Michael Bradley credit with how they've started this year. This list can change so much and going into week three. I mean, if you have a team, one of these top 10 teams just lose a game that they should win and someone below them wins, this can all change pretty quickly. But I think right now, based on what I've seen and the job Michael Bradley's done with the team that he has, I've got to put them in that 5 slot because they've been that impressive to me.
Yeah, I do like them there. This is gonna sound crazy, but I would take them in winning over Nashville at this very moment if it was like a Surridgeless Nashville. When they're off kilter like that. I think that they have played really well, like you said, and they have just geared themselves into being the shootout kind of team. I think, and that's going off of like one game where they just won 1-0, but I think that they really are going to be very open, very exciting, very forward with the ball. And that seems to be the play style that they're making the kids work. And that's part of the reason why I like them so much is the kids are taking, I mentioned this, but like Choupo-Moting's on the bench. The kids are taking, senior roster spots, starting spots. And when that happens, it means I view you as a little bit deeper. If we got Choupo-Moting on the bench, we got someone we're ready to unleash that is a designated player. Like, I think that is really good and makes you a very deep team. Or vice versa, you start, Choupo-Moting, and now you know who you've got in this 17-year-old on the bench that you can, let run loose for 15, 20 minutes. So I like the kind of almost well-roundedness of talent in the squad that the Red Bulls are making it seem like they have right now. So, I like them at the 5 spot. I would take them over all those teams we've already listed.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Okay, coming in at the 4 spot, this is where I think the list gets pretty legitimate in terms of the teams we've expected to be here, and they are here. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to start in that 4 spot with Vancouver. Vancouver did not look their best in week one, and I think we can both agree on that. They still got the job done. They still got all 3 points. Didn't look great offensively, and then week two here against Toronto, very dominant performance. I mean, this offense looked like what it was last year to a degree. Thomas Muller gets a brace. Brian White gets on the score sheet, and defensively just looked stellar against this Toronto team that is still without Josh Sargent. So I know they have that going for them, but I mean, to take care of business against a rival up north, and I think this is all you could have asked in a game like this at home to win 3-0 in a dominant fashion. Has me putting them in that 4 slot.
I think that's totally fine. I agree with you. We're in another tier now. We've moved up a bucket, and Vancouver's in a league of their own right now. Well, not league in their own compared to the rest of these. They're not in a league of their own, but there's certainly levels to this. Vancouver, I would comfortably trust to beat basically any of these teams that we've already mentioned, plus the teams we're not going to mention in this league.
Yeah. Coming into the top 3 now, this was my one outlier, Tony. I told you that my silly power rankings list that I said that has all these rules to it. This is the one outlier rule that I cannot have Miami currently outside the top 3, even despite them losing to LAFC. That's where I'm going to slot in Miami is that 3 slot. Because of that loss, I can't put them any higher than the 2 teams that are going to be above them. But to have this team turn it on the way they did in that second half against Orlando, score 4 goals, get all 3 points on the road against your interstate rival, it was impressive to me. It feels like a team, like you've watched other sports, like in the NBA, like you have a team full of veterans, and I used to watch with LeBron so much back in the day, and you would get to a point where they were just like, wake me up when it's the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they would still in the regular season have a ton of games where it would be a close game. And then the fourth quarter, they were like, okay, we're good enough just to win this game now. And that's when I think Miami's probably feeling a little bit that they're just like, just wake me up in the second half and we'll close this game out. Of course, they probably don't want it to be 2-0 going into halftime each time, but they're capable of this offensive explosion at any second with all the talent they have. And that's still without Allende and Bertarami still not even getting on the score sheet for this team and performing the way they have. So it's impressive. And I can't have them any lower than 3 just from a talent standpoint.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It does feel like there's a higher gear they can still reach. And we may not see that for a while. I mean, partly because it's the beginning of the season, like you said, kind of the take me to the playoff effect. But also, we're going to start balancing a lot of competitions here soon. CONCACAF's really going to ramp up. They're playing a series with Nashville, which is going to be really exciting
Oh,
to
yeah.
watch.
Yep.
But then, we'll start to mix in Leagues Cup. Obviously, we got the World Cup break. There's a lot of bifurcation for this season, a lot of minutes on these guys for Miami. So I feel like this is kind of especially you go into the beginning of the season, you remember like, hey, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We can't go balls to the wall in these first 2 games. We've got other competitions we need to handle, which, by the way, CONCACAF, we want to win that thing. We need to prioritize that. So there's just things like that where it feels like Miami's throttling a little bit right now. But if they're getting results, they're getting results, and to keep them at least in the playoffs. And then, like you said, they strike there. So they're doing what they got to do. A lot of games ahead for them. So I think there's still another gear for them, but not sure when exactly they're going to hit that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Coming in the number 2 slot, Tony, I have San Diego. This team continues to put up offensive numbers that are just so impressive, and the way they play. And Andres Dreyer, he may never win MVP because Messi exists, but the dude is unbelievable. The way that they run this offense through him every single game, even when it's not him scoring the ball. You saw last week, he gets multiple assists, and every game they are there to do one thing, that's score goals, and they've done that with playing solid defense so far this year on top of that. And you got to give them credit, they've taken care of business. They haven't played the stiffest competition
Yeah.
necessarily, but we've talked about it plenty in our podcast. You've got to take care of business against the bad teams, and that's what great teams do. You just got to show up and you got to win those games, and they've done it in dominant fashion. And it's exciting to watch. The brand of football is fun to watch, and it doesn't feel like that they're going to have that second year drop off. Like they're going right where they left off last year.
Yeah, that was going to be my only pushback to maybe notch them down a spot or two. The strength of schedule has been really soft. Montreal at home making the cross country trek, and then now St. Louis at home does feel like that would be my ideal first 2 games if I had to lay out the schedule. So that's my only pushback. But like you said, they're doing it really cleanly. 7 goals for, 0 goals against across 2 games it feels really good. So they are definitely deserved, I'd say, of a top 3 spot, if not top 4. Though maybe second. That's where you push back. You could also push back a little bit too, saying, okay, well, what's going on with the Chucky stuff? Do people really want him? You could have another designated player right now, and possibly, like Miami, you could hit another gear. You could, be really utilizing every mechanism of that roster you could. But they're missing that. So that's I guess, maybe counterpoints to second place on the seeding. But I mean, we're still talking about an incredibly good team right now. It seems like everything's going their way. So they're definitely have a vote for a really high number on that power ranking.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And coming in that number 1 slot, Tony, the team everyone expects here, Montreal. No, I'm just kidding. We've got LAFC at the number 1 slot. They've beaten Miami, who's the number 3 team in our list. They win convincingly against Houston, and Sun and Buwanga are picking up right where they left off. Buwanga's tied up for the season now in terms of an extension, so that storyline is gone, and this team can just focus on winning. And the offense looks dynamic. We critiqued them last year for not being able to attack a low block and having to depend on countering, and they showed that in the second game that Houston put on that low block, and they were able to, one, bring them out of it to attract red cards that Sun was doing at times, and then 2, get chances and Yes, one of them is Delgado, of course, hitting an absolute screamer from outside the box, but they were able to finish games and doing it on the road. Like this was done on the road at Houston, and to have those two type of performances against Miami and Houston, I think is really impressive early on.
Yeah, I mean, there's no arguments here. They're clearly a number one, and then you could use the strength of schedule argument with them for beating Miami 3-0. You know, they're the Kings right now. They're dominating everything. So they're definitely number one for me. I think now looking at our power rankings as a whole, I do wonder if we may have snubbed Minnesota or New York for one of those lower slots. New
Yep,
York City,
that's what I
that
was
is.
saying. They were the 11-12. So
Yeah, yeah. Because again, that's my litmus test is if these two played each other, who would win? And I think that Minnesota, they drew Austin, who we got at 9 right now, and then beat Cincinnati, which I think is impressive for a road team. And then New York City, without a
hmm
striker, has also gotten a draw and a win. So I think that there's some real arguments for them, but I think we did a good job with this one. I'm only talking about moving teams up or down like one spot. So I think that we're kind of
yeah,
filing rank. Yeah.
and like I said, I think early on the season this is going to be a very fluid list. Like I think you could see 4 teams move out of the list depending on how next week goes, and you don't really start seeing quite a bit of consistency week in week out. So probably that week 6, 7, 8 range of when you're feeling out. Okay, these
Hmm.
teams. It's not just a 2 week sample size now. Like this is 2 months of play that we can now look at. So bear with us. This is gonna be fun. I enjoy doing this and just debating a little bit. And like you said, tier lists are funny. Everyone's gonna disagree about it. I
Yeah.
recommend to those listening, please go watch it, go view it, and disagree. I want to
Tell
hear
us
who
how
you
we're
would have
wrong.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me how I'm wrong. We're gonna be doing a separate YouTube video of this just as a standalone on YouTube as well. So get in there as well and take a look at this tier list and let us know what you disagree with. But we appreciate it. I will close out of this now and get back to our beautiful faces here, Tony,
Mm.
and we can close out the podcast here. And I would say it's great to be back. I love watching MLS. It was a lot of fun to be able to just sit back and watch. I know you had a little bit of it broken up, but I
Yeah.
was able to sit on that couch after we went out for the
Man, oh
FCC
man.
4:30 game, and I was able to sit and cry and watch the rest of the teams win.
Yeah. It's great to be back. Like I said, it's my comfort food. And I'm just ready to I don't know. Now we're in the grind. Now we're in the rhythm. It'll get broken up a little bit with the international break coming up, but then also it's getting broken up for some amazing soccer there too, with just so many storylines between the playing games and Team USA and the rosters and what all that looks like. So it's exciting times ahead for us. It really is.
Yep. Stay tuned. Follow us on socials, TikTok, Instagram. Check out our YouTube. Like I said, there's going to be this standalone video for the tier list we just did. Like, subscribe, get in the comment section. It's entertaining for us to talk with you guys and get to know some of you via socials. So, with that being said, we will see you guys on the Friday episode. TBD. We might have a special guest, but I think he's middle something, so it may be a solo episode. You might get me by
Oh
myself
man,
here. If Mr. Tony is going to Vegas, he's all over the world. You don't know where Tony is these
cannot be
days.
stopped.
I'm assuming you're going to hit a point after this trip. You may be like, don't let me leave my house anymore because
After
I'm pretty
this,
sure
I
you're a
have
routine guy.
yes, I am. I've after this trip, I've definitely traveled probably more miles in the last 2.5 weeks than I have in the
Yeah,
last 5 years. So
yeah,
it's a lot, but hey, we'll take it. You just one trip at a time. You enjoy it for what it is. I'll be watching Western,
yeah.
hours. So
You get the nice
I
hours to
know,
watch
but I'm
sports.
going to be
Yeah,
up late and be like, "Where's all the soccer? Where's my
it's
MLS after
true. It's
dark?"
true.
So
Yeah.
that's the bummer of that. But no, it'll be a good time. I'm sure. I'll be listening on the plane for our Friday episode, so don't you worry about
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen to me as I'm talking to you alone.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we will get out of here. A longer episode. We appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us talk about some MLS, and we will see you guys on Friday.
See ya.